Hi everyone and welcome to the video. I'm Parker from TestPrepChampions.com and today I'm going to be answering another GED question. This one is, how do I become a doctor after I take the GED test? And so I'm really excited to answer this. And first of all, for those that don't know me, I've worked with GED test takers and students in other subjects as a tutor for many years, and I started as a volunteer GED test taker, GED test prep tutor. Then I worked full-time for a little while as a tutor, and then I started TestPrepChampions.com after several years of tutoring in 2016, mainly with GED test takers in mind, mainly to help GED test takers pass. And since 2016, I've helped countless students with the GED in all subjects through my website. And so, also, the other reason why I think I have a really unique perspective on this and why I'm so excited to share this is because I'm applying to dental school this June. I'm finishing up a program at the University of Pennsylvania, and in a couple months I'll be applying. So I know that the original question is about medical school, but that's probably the most popular healthcare question I get asked about after people take the GED. But I know there's some interest in veterinary school among GED test takers and dentistry. So just know that although I'm mainly going to be talking about medical school here. The process for dental school, veterinary school, it's very similar. There's some differences, but just know that about 80 to 90% of the stuff I'm going to talk about in this video is still going to help you out if it's veterinary or dental school, although I am going to mainly talk about medical school. So let's get started. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by, give you guys a 1 or 2 minute quick rundown of the process from GED to medical school. I'm going to show you guys a quick infographic that I've made. And after that, you're welcome to drop off if you don't want to stay for the whole video. You just want to see the basic process. That's totally cool. It's your time, whatever you want to do. But, if you want to keep watching, I'm going to go more in depth. I'm going to go very in depth onto all these points. And I think it's really going to help you out. So I hope you stay tuned, but it's up to you. So I'm going to switch the screen and I'm going to show you the basics right now. Okay, so this is an infographic that I've used from an answer I wrote on Quora.com a little while ago in June 21st, 2017. But I just wanted to touch on it quickly. I know I have talked about this a little bit before in a webinar, but I wanted to make a separate video. So the basic path from GED to doctor is, step one, you're going to obviously take the GED, shoot for as good of a score as you can get. Second step is to get into a college. Now, if you can go right into a four-year school, that's going to be advantageous to you for a number of reasons that I'll touch on later. If you have to start a community college, that's fine, but you got to do what you got to do. That's perfectly fine. But the name of the game is really to get into a four-year university eventually, either right away or to transfer from a community college. I'll explain why that matters so much later on, but that's really the name of the game. First of all, get into a four-year school. You're then going to build your medical school application. So you got to make your grades your top priority. You want to try to get as good as you can. You want to try to get all A's if you can, but you want to aim for at least a 3.5 GPA. And you're also going to want to do volunteering and community service work, and you're going to want to get some medically related clinical experience. So whether it's shadowing doctors, volunteering in the emergency room, working as an assistant. If you're into dentistry, you could do shadowing your dentist, shadowing an oral surgery. You could do work as a dental assistant, or if you're, you could be a vet tech, something like that. If you want to be a vet, doesn't matter, but you want your community service and your volunteering. And, that's really important because if you want to be a doctor, you should want to help others. So you got to have a lot of service to others, and you want to be involved in medically related stuff, and you also want to try to get a research position. You really want to do, especially for medical school, this is really important, you want to get involved in research, and you can do that through your university. And I'll talk about, talk a little bit more about this a little bit later. But then for medical school, you want to take the MCAT. All right, for dental school, it's going to be the DAT. I know that there's a similar test for vet school. I can't remember the name offhand, but it's basically a standardized entrance exam test that all medical students are going to have to take. You're going to have to do well with it. And it doesn't really matter if you went to, your local state school, or if you went to Harvard, okay? Your MCAT score is standardized. Everybody takes the same test, so it kind of evens the playing field, especially if you do really well. And so that's the basic process. I think I outlined it here. Yeah, so GED, community college, or go right to four-year university. Study for the MCAT, take the MCAT, finish your undergraduate degree, and then as you're finishing your undergraduate degree, you're either going to apply maybe your junior or senior year of college, or you're going to apply after your bachelor's degree is done. But you'll apply to medical school, you'll interview, and you hopefully become a doctor. Now, it's not that easy. Of course, you're going to need there's a lot of nuances. There's a lot of other things you have to know, but that is the basic outline. You're also going to have to take prerequisite courses, which are going to include a year of general chemistry, a year of organic chemistry, usually at least 1 year of biology, like a biology 1 class, biology 2 class, probably more bio classes as well, like physiology, which I'll touch on later, a year of physics, and then biochemistry is not always required, but it's good to take. Okay, so basically, this is the point where, I said before, if you just wanted to get a good overview, that's your overview. So now I'm going to switch the screen back over, and I'm going to go a little bit more in depth onto all of this. But I just want to give you guys a basic outline of what you have to do. Okay, so I'm going to explain this stuff a little bit more in depth. And this is really important to understand. The first thing is obviously get the GED, take the GED test, pass all 4 sections. Okay, there's a lot of information about there about how to do that on my channel, on my website. Other people have a lot of content on that as well. So I'm not going to talk about too much how to do well on the GED in this video, but that's the first step. So number 1, you're going to get the GED. So if you're watching this, I'm assuming you already have your GED done or you're taking it right now. Either way, you want to do that first, and then the name of the game is to get into a 4-year college, okay? You really want to get into a 4-year college somewhere. Now, if you can do it right off the bat with your GED and go right into a 4-year university, then, you can skip community college. That's going to be advantageous to you in some ways. In some ways, it won't be, because if you start at community college, you're probably going to save some money in the long run, because you'll be able to start taking your basic general classes and general ed requirements, but the name of the game is you got to end up in a 4-year school, okay? And I'll tell you why that's so important here in a minute. I know it might not be what everyone wants to hear, but you got to eventually end up in a 4-year school. If you start at community college, that's perfectly fine. But if you have to go that route, definitely you want to do really, really well. So if you got to start at community college, plenty of people have done that, okay? There are many doctors out there, dentists, other people who have started at community college. Perfectly fine, okay, if that's what you got to do. Okay, but you want to do well. You want to try to get all A's in your classes, okay? And so then you want to transfer into a 4-year school. And here's why it matters so much, all right? For medical school, okay, you need a bachelor's degree, all right? You do, okay? There's not really that much debate about this. You're going to want to get a bachelor's degree. Doesn't matter what your major is. It doesn't matter what you do. As long as you take those prerequisite classes that I talked about earlier, your basic sciences, as long as you take those, you can major in, music. You can major in whatever you want to do, art history. It does not really matter that much, whatever you're interested in. So you don't necessarily have to major in biology or chemistry. A lot of people think that they've got to major in biology or something in the sciences to get into medical school, dental school. Not true at all. It can be religious studies, whatever is interested in you, whatever is the most interesting to you. It does not matter, as long as you take those basic prerequisite science classes. So that being said, you're going to have to get a bachelor's degree, which is why you're going to want to get into a 4-year college. It's fine to start at community college. A lot of those gen ed requirements and basic classes that you take there, that's going to help you, because you're going to, if you're starting at community college, because you're going to, you're going to work on your study skills, work on your time management, and hopefully get A's or close to all A's. Okay, you want to do well. That's going to help you as a launching pad to get into a 4-year college, okay? And a lot of those will probably count towards your degree. Okay, but the point is that, okay, you're going to need a bachelor's degree to go to medical school. Okay, now it's either a requirement. Some medical schools, they might tell you that it's not technically required, but it's extremely, extremely rare for somebody to get into medical school in the United States or dental without a bachelor's degree, okay? Sure, there's some very rare exceptions out there. Some people have extenuating circumstances, but it is very rare, so you're going to want to get that bachelor's degree. That's the first priority, is get in a 4-year school, get in a 4-year program. Again, doesn't matter what you study. Okay, so the second reason why you need to go to a 4-year college is because those prerequisite classes that I mentioned, okay, you're going to want to take those at a 4-year school, okay? Now, this point is a little bit more nuanced, because if for whatever reason, your financial situation or otherwise, you have to take those, your general chemistry 1, general chemistry 2, organic chemistry 1, organic chemistry 2, biology 1, biology 2, and your physics 1 and 2, calculus, statistics. You want to, if you have to take that at community college for whatever reason, I certainly can understand that, okay? It doesn't disqualify you. It doesn't make it impossible for you to go into medical school, okay? You can take them at community colleges and still go on to medical school. But here's the thing, okay? there are many med schools out there that you will be disqualified from, okay? You can read it on their websites. You can search whatever medical schools you might want to go to. Look on their website. A lot of them are going to tell you that they only accept prerequisites from four-year schools, okay? I think Virginia Commonwealth, that's one that, right off the top of my head, that's one that I can think of. But there's plenty out there that are either going to tell you directly on their website, or if you call them, I'm telling you, they're going to tell you, okay, they only take prerequisites from four-year colleges, okay, or they strongly prefer prerequisites from four-year colleges, which that basically means that, you got to take them at four-year colleges, okay? Not always. Now, there's some nuance to this. Some schools don't care. Some schools don't have a preference, okay? Now, between you and me, okay, we all know that you get in what you put out. If you want to go to community college and take chemistry there, if you're going to learn chemistry if you put a lot in. If you do the work, okay, you do a good job, you're still going to know just as much about chemistry as somebody at another school. It doesn't necessarily mean that the quality of education you get is going to be worse if you put a lot into it, okay? You're only going to get out what you put in. But the point is that some medical schools, yeah, they're straight up, it will disqualify you if you have those prerequisites done at community college. Some it will, not all of them, okay? But if you can, really try to take those at a four-year school, because there's going to be a lot more medical schools you can apply to. So, the number of schools you can apply to, okay, the more schools that you apply to, the higher your chance of getting in is, okay? So you don't want to cut yourself off from certain schools, because you're going to be disqualified right away if you don't, before you even apply. Like, you can send your application, they're going to look at it, and they're going to see, that you don't meet that requirement, and that'll be it, okay? So, like I said, there is some nuance here. If you have to take them at a community college, if you have to, you got to do what you got to do. You can still get into medical school. There are people that have done it. It doesn't make it impossible, but if you want to raise your odds of success and become a doctor, okay, you really want to try to do it at a four-year school. Okay, it's going to help you out. You're not going to have to deal with the hassle of being, rejected instantly from a school, okay, just because you took them at community college. Okay, like I said, on a personal level, I don't think it's really matters that much, okay? But in the eyes of certain medical schools, it is going to matter. Like I said, probably not what everyone wants to hear who's watching this, but, that is the truth. So, okay, so I'll move on from that topic a little bit, but, in summary, get a bachelor's degree, get into a four-year school, and, okay, so you're either going to want to have finished your bachelor's degree, or you'll want it done by the time that you start medical school. So it's okay if it's like your junior year of undergrad, you're finishing your bachelor's degree, but, as long as it's going to be done by the time that you apply. So that's pretty much a given. You got to get the bachelor's degree. Very rare to get in without one. As far as community college goes, okay, taking your general education requirements at community college, that's fine. In most cases, that's not going to matter. I don't see why that's going to matter at all. That won't matter. That should be perfectly fine. But, the science classes, your core prerequisites, that might matter depending on where you go to medical school. It's not always going to be the case. Like I said, it doesn't necessarily mean it's impossible for you to get in. It doesn't necessarily disqualify you, but it can work against you depending on where you want to go. So you're going to really try to take those at a four-year school. Okay, so this is where the fun begins. Let's say that you've got into a four-year college now. Okay, now what you do is you're going to be taking those science classes, okay, and you want to do really well in those science classes, but you also have to build up the other parts of your application, okay? And so right here in front of me, I have the AAMC, the American Medical something, or other, I don't know what it is offhand, but, there's a list of their core competencies that they look for entering medical students. And, it's basically things like, besides your scientific competencies, which you get from your coursework, it's interpersonal competencies like service orientation. You have to demonstrate a desire to help others. You have to demonstrate sensitivity to other people's needs and feelings, okay? You've got to be able to demonstrate a desire to alleviate others' distress. You have to have good social skills. You've got to be able to demonstrate awareness of other people's needs and feelings. You've got to have cultural competence, right? You've got to demonstrate knowledge of social and cultural factors that affect interaction and behaviors. And yes, I am reading that off of the sheet. So I'm going to stop reading it off the sheet, but I'm just reading that so that you know that you want to get involved in service as often as possible. And it can be something like Habitat for Humanity. That's a good way to do it because, especially if you like to get out there and do active stuff, you'll get out there. Your shifts will be longer. I think you'll be working like 8 hours at a time, but you'll rack up a lot of hours. That's fun. You could do like soup kitchen. You could do tutoring. That might even be a good thing to do. If you get the GED, you go through all sections of the GED test. Then you go on to help other people by volunteering to tutor them. It doesn't have to be the GED. You can volunteer in other ways to tutor. You can do Ronald McDonald House or any kind of really charity group or community service. Like I've done a lot of those different things I've done, like, picking up trash around the city in your community. That's a good one to do too. But you're going to want to do that. You can really start that now, right? I mean, you don't have to wait. If you're just studying for the GED test now, you can start early. And like I said at the beginning, if you want to be a doctor, if you want to be a medical healthcare professional, okay, that shouldn't be a shock to you, okay? You should do something that's going to be fun and rewarding for you, okay? It's going to help you become a better person. It's going to help you grow and mature. But it is really important to demonstrate to the medical schools and dental, veterinary, that you have a commitment to helping others and a commitment to service, because if not, then why are they going to believe that you actually want to help others, that you actually want to be a doctor, okay? It's going to be a really hard sell, and you're probably not going to get in, okay? Because they're not going to believe that you actually care about helping others, which if you don't really want to help other people, you should be going into medicine, okay? That's a whole other topic, but basically, you can get involved in service right away, okay? And it's going to help you right away. It's going to help you not just with your application, it's going to help you in life, but also when you get down the line, when you're writing essays for medical school admission and when you're going to medical school interviews, okay, they're going to ask you about, your service, and they're going to ask you about that kind of thing, about what was the most rewarding volunteering experience for you. So you're going to, it's going to be, if you have done something that's really meaningful for you, okay, it's going to help your application a lot. Okay, so you want to do that, and so you're volunteering, and you're also going to want to try to get involved in research if you can. This isn't necessarily something you have to do if you're in dental or veterinary. It still is important, though. It's becoming more and more important. But for medical school, it's pretty much a given now that you have to be involved in research. I guess it's not, technically a requirement, but, especially really prestigious medical schools, they're going to expect that you're going to have some research experience in a laboratory. And so really the best way to do that is, if you don't have any experience, kind of like cold calling, what you'd want to do is you'd make you're going to want to go on your school's website, just see if you can find a directory of who's doing research in your school, okay? See which professors are doing research, make a big spreadsheet, read a little bit about their projects, and just email them and just ask them if they want to meet up and talk about it, and volunteer to help, okay? Volunteer to help them. Say, I don't have any clinical research experience yet, okay, but I'll volunteer my time. I can do 5 hours a week, 2 hours a week, 20 hours a week, whatever it is, and that's going to be that really is something important. Okay, that's not the only way to do it. That's kind of like the shotgun or cold calling approach. But one kind of way to speed up the process that I know from one of my advisors suggested this is if you want to focus on professors that are new, because they might be more likely to take on, a rookie with no research experience, because they might not have laboratories that are as established yet, and they might be more willing to, just take someone in as a volunteer, whereas some people that have been at your school for years and years and years, they might already, have a laboratory, everything's going smoothly, they don't necessarily need any help. So keep that in mind. Like I said, for dental, it's not. In veterinary, you don't necessarily have to do it. It's good. For medicine, you pretty much do, in most cases, if you want to get into a good medical school. So there's that. And you also want to get some clinical exposure, right? Some clinical experience, okay? Which, that could be shadowing, like for me, for dentistry, that's shadowing and a couple specialties I did. For medicine, that could be, going and shadowing a doctor, shadowing different specialties. So you either, if you don't know anyone that can help you, you just want to, just call up your doctor, your family physician, ask him or her. Another thing you can do is go volunteer at the emergency room. I did that for a little while, a long time ago. And that's a really cool thing to do, because you'll get a lot of exposure to medicine. You'll be around doctors, PAs, you'll learn about the healthcare setting, because, how do you know that you want to be a doctor? You might think you want to be a doctor, but until you've been in, the clinical setting like that, you don't really know. So, and that also helps with your volunteering and community service. So it kind of kills two birds with one stone. So those are the areas that you really want to focus on. Okay, the other areas of your application is your research experience, your volunteering and community service, and also if you can get a job doing something, like if you can work as a dental assistant or a veterinary assistant, or do some kind of job in medicine, like you could be a lab tech or anything like that. I mean, that requires a certification. That's even more impressive. Like a med tech or something like that, it's even more impressive. Don't necessarily have to be, but if you've got to work, right, if you've got to work, okay, it's going to help you. You're going to make money, and you're also going to be taken care of. You're going to be checking off a box on your application, which is clinical exposure. So you'd be killing two birds with the same stone again, okay? So those are some good ideas here, but that's kind of what you want to do. And so you're gonna go to undergrad, and you're gonna take your classes, whatever your major is, and you're gonna reach out to just do a Google search or talk to some people, find out what kind of community service opportunities there are in your area. Make some time each week for service, and as far as how many hours, really, that's not really the right question to ask. That's not the best way to think about it, because if you're helping people, you're helping people, right? You shouldn't have to put a number of hours on it. But typically, I've heard this from many people and on med school admissions committees and dental school. 100 is a pretty good number for everything, right? So 100 hours of community service or volunteering is pretty typical. Of course, some people do a lot more, and the more is always good, right? And it's always good to demonstrate a commitment over time. Okay, so like for me, when I was an undergrad, I did community college tutoring, and I did GED tutoring when I was in undergrad. Okay, several years ago, and so that that was something that was a long-term commitment. I did, sometimes a couple hours a week, almost every week, right? Or sometimes more than a couple hours, but that was something I did for a couple years. So that was a project I worked on for a little while, okay? You can do something, like I said, going to Ronald McDonald House, but that's more something you only do every now and then. That's good, okay? I've done that too, but it's even better if you could find, a service project that is going to be a long-term commitment to. And you're also going to need, so when you go to get your application together, probably as soon as you start to get your prerequisite classes done, okay, you're going to then want to take the MCAT, which the MCAT is basically, it's from what I've heard. I took the DAT for dental school. From what I've heard, the DAT is very challenging. I'm sure the MCAT is very challenging. Okay, I've heard that, right? So, but it's basically all the science classes that you've taken, your chemistry, your biochemistry, your physics, your biology, and even I think there's psychology section and reading section on the MCAT. Okay, everything that you've learned in school for your time in undergrad and community college, if you start there, okay, it's kind of pulls together all the knowledge that you should have in the sciences and, with reading comprehension and critical thinking, and it tests you on it, okay? And that's really, really important. Besides your GPA, the MCAT, it's right up there with your GPA. They're pretty close in importance, all right? Especially if your GPA is on the lower end, okay? If you end up, you want to try to get all A's, like I said, or pretty close to it. A couple bad grades, if you get a C or even a D or something in a class or two, probably not going to kill your chances, okay, as long as you can make up for it, depending on where you want to go. If you want to go to a top-tier medical school, it might, a couple, 1 or 2 C's might kill your chances. But if you just want to get in somewhere, okay, a lot of C's or D's probably will kill your chances, but 1 or 2 won't necessarily kill your chances, as long as you show that you can handle the coursework by doing well in other classes, and especially doing well on the MCAT, right? So if your GPA is on the lower end, you definitely want that really high MCAT score. So some people, it depends on your school. Some schools offer, MCAT tutoring. If not, there's programs you can do. You can do a Kaplan program, Princeton Review program. There's all kinds of different ways to study for the MCAT, study for the DAT. That's usually a multi-month process, right? That's usually something that you're not going to do it in 2 weeks. Okay, that would be a nightmare for most people. Okay, you're going to want to do it, okay, over a period of time. And the best preparation is probably your classes and the work you can do in your classes, right? I've known students who have taken the MCAT that, they were very strong students in the sciences, and so it wasn't really that big of a deal for them, okay? For other people, it's a bigger deal, but the best preparation is going to be to try to learn as much as you can in your classes, but that test really is important. Those numbers really do matter. And so then when you apply, you're going to put your application together. You're going to want to get letters of recommendation. So you're going to want to try to build relationships with your professors as you go. And it shouldn't be that hard. It should, just happen naturally, right? So, you get to know your professors and really pick their brains, because they're there to help you. If you have questions about the material, you're not understanding it, stop by their office hours, send them an email, get to know them, always be grateful for their help and be really appreciative. And down the line, if you've done really well in a class and you've gotten to know a professor, don't be afraid. Ask them for a letter of recommendation, because you're going to need those letters of recommendation. And if you've done your volunteering, your service, or if you've done work as a lab technician or something like that, okay, whatever it is, you'll probably want to get letters of rec from them as well. So you put that all together, your MCAT scores, your academic work, okay, and you put that all into your application, then you apply, right? You're going to pick schools and you're going to apply to them. You pretty much just wait and see what happens, okay? You're going to get an interview, okay? You'll have at least one interview. Some schools are going to do multiple interviews, depending on where you go, but, and that's really the time to shine. You're also going to have essay questions, basically, why do you want to be a doctor? What's your most rewarding volunteering experience? that kind of thing. And also anything that you can do to demonstrate, that you have some understanding of different cultures, that's going to be really good as well. So like, really anything that you can do to work with, different groups and different cultures, learn a little bit about different cultures, demonstrate that, you can work well with people from all walks of life and all walks and all different backgrounds. That's going to be important too. So, it's not easy. It's a long road. It really is. But that's kind of how you bring it all together. So hopefully that answers your question. It's a long process, but it's definitely doable. And, above all, you got to have faith. You got to believe in yourself. You got to have faith. If you really think medicine is your calling, dentistry, whatever it is, you got to have faith and you'll find a way to do it. So, in summary, that's kind of how you want to do it. Get the GED, you get into a four-year college, okay? If you have to start a community college, that's fine, but you want to get into a four-year college because you're going to need the bachelor's degree. That's pretty much a given, okay? And you're going to want to, if you can, you're going to really want to try to take your prerequisite classes, your prerequisite sciences at a four-year school. If you have to do it at a community college, okay, it's not necessarily going to disqualify you, but it's not ideal, okay? And there are some schools that won't take your community college classes in the sciences, okay? But you shouldn't have any trouble with your general education classes you do at community college. It should mostly be, but those prerequisites, some schools won't care, okay? It doesn't mean you can't still get in. So I don't want people to come down here and, tell me like, oh, I know all these people that got in, to medical school from community college. People do, okay? I'm just saying, if you want to improve your odds, take those classes at a four-year college, okay? That's going to help you if you can, okay? It's really going to help you. Then once you get into the four-year college, you can major in whatever you want to. You're going to do those prerequisites, your general chemistry, organic, your biology, and you're going to do those classes. And at the same time, you're going to make some time every week to do your volunteering and your community service, whatever is meaningful for you. Find some kind of project to get involved with in your community, and you're going to shoot for at least 100 hours of that, right? You're also going to want to do some clinical exposure. So, you could also, like one thing you can do, like I did this before, you can work at like an elderly care home as like a patient care assistant. I did that for a couple years, or a couple summers, I should say. You can do something like that too. Just something that, try to make it specific as you can, right? I mean, as specific to your field as you can. Like if I had been like a dental assistant or something, that might have even been more specific to dentistry, but it doesn't matter, it's not super important, but it's good to have, make it as relevant as you can. So you want some clinical exposure. You want some hands-on work working with patients, okay? You can volunteer or you can have a paid position. Doesn't really matter that much, okay? And anything with a certification, like to become a med tech, lab tech, CPR certification, anything that requires like, that has a higher bar of entry to get involved with, it's going to look a lot better. It's going to look even more impressive. And so research too is big for medicine. Like I said, oftentimes, if you go to a smaller school, there's probably fewer research opportunities, but since your classes are smaller, you might have a better chance of getting a position because the professors might be more, you might have more personal, time with them, get to know them better if the classes are smaller. But bigger schools usually tend to have more research opportunities, so you just kind of have to balance that. But that is something cool to get involved with. So you can either reach out to your professors in your classes if you hear them talking about the research or the laboratory work. You can just talk to them, okay? And if not, you can just do the shotgun approach and just kind of find people that are doing research at your school. Just email them, we'll try to learn a little bit about the project. Just volunteer to go help them out. And, if you email 50 people, okay, probably 2 or 3 of them will at least meet with you and you can talk about it. And then, but that's going to help your application, especially for medicine. And so again, you package that all together. You're going to take the MCAT or the DAT if you're in dental school. That's a big standardized test that covers all the basic sciences in different ways and some other competencies too. And you package that all together. You get your letters of recommendation and you apply and hopefully you get in. You have faith and hopefully you get in. So hopefully this answers your question. As far as, is the GED going to matter? No, it's not. As long as you get into four-year college, no one should really care that you get your GED. I don't see why it would matter. They might, maybe in an interview, they might ask you about it, but, if you've performed strongly in your college classes, there's no reason why it's going to be held against you, okay? If it comes up in an interview, okay, you just say, yeah, I was young for whatever reason. I left high school, got the GED. And I did really well in my classes. Look at my grades, look at how I performed in, these really hard science classes I took in undergrad. Look at what I was able to do. I've learned from it. I've matured as a person. And if you can do that, I mean, it's not going to matter. Okay, trust me, it won't matter. It's not going to matter as long as you do a good job with your work in college. So Let me know if you have any questions. I hope I made this clear, and good luck whatever you choose to do.